Welcome to the Sleepy Stoic Sanctuary, where divine wisdom illuminates the eternal human quest for truth and self-understanding. Tonight, we journey into the radiant presence of Apollo, the most luminous of the Olympian gods, whose dominion encompasses truth, prophecy, music, healing, and the sacred art of knowing oneself. This is the deity who established the oracle at Delphi with its immortal inscription, "Know Thyself," who speaks through prophecy and poetry, who brings both the light that reveals and the music that heals, and who demonstrates that the pursuit of truth is humanity's highest calling. Apollo stands before us, not merely as a god of power, but as the divine embodiment of enlightenment itself, the force that drives humans to seek authentic understanding rather than comfortable illusion, to pursue wisdom rather than mere knowledge, to face difficult truths rather than embrace pleasant deceptions. His golden radiance represents the illumination that comes when we stop hiding from reality and begin the sacred work of understanding both ourselves and the world with clarity and courage. In our age of information abundance, yet wisdom scarcity, of endless opinions, yet little genuine truth-seeking, of constant external noise, yet rare internal reflection, Apollo's teachings become more essential than ever. The god who invented the phrase, "nothing in excess," and insisted that know thyself must precede all other learning, offers profound guidance for anyone seeking authentic understanding in a world of superficial answers. Tonight's exploration reveals how divine truth communicates with human consciousness, how the burden of seeing clearly becomes a sacred responsibility, how self-knowledge forms the foundation for all genuine wisdom, and how the pursuit of truth, despite its difficulties, offers the only path to authentic peace and purposeful living. You who seek clarity in confusion, wisdom in chaos, and authentic understanding beneath the surface of things, settle into your bed and prepare to receive the illumination that Apollo has offered seekers for thousands of years. Close your eyes, quiet your mind, and let the divine light of truth-seeking guide you toward the self-knowledge that makes all other knowledge meaningful. The God of light awaits, and with him, the eternal wisdom that transforms seekers into seers, questioners into wise ones, and humans into conscious participants in the cosmic order that governs all existence. Take 3 conscious breaths with me now, breathing in the clarity that comes from seeking truth, and breathing out any resistance to seeing yourself and your life with honest recognition. In through your nose, drawing in the courage required for genuine self-examination. Hold for a moment in the space of honest awareness, and release slowly through your mouth, letting go of any need to maintain comfortable illusions about yourself or your circumstances. Feel your body settling into the peaceful rhythm of authentic inquiry. Like a seeker preparing to look honestly into the mirror of self-awareness. Your shoulders drop away from your ears, releasing the tension that comes from maintaining false images or avoiding difficult truths about your own patterns and motivations. Starting from the crown of your head, imagine a gentle, illuminating light beginning to flow down through your body. This is the light of self-knowledge, the same divine radiance that Apollo offers to all who genuinely seek to understand themselves beneath the surface of personality, role, and social presentation. Feel it flowing down your forehead, relaxing every muscle in your face, preparing you to see with the clear eyes of honest self-recognition. Like a truth seeker, preparing to receive the oracle's guidance, or a student approaching the temple inscription, "Know Thyself," with genuine readiness to discover what lies beneath surface awareness. You are becoming receptive to insights about your own nature, motivations, and authentic path toward wisdom and purposeful living. The illuminating light moves down your neck and shoulders, releasing all tension from the effort of maintaining personas or meeting others' expectations, rather than living from your authentic self. Your arms grow heavy and relaxed, sinking deeper into the mattress, like someone finally setting down the burden of pretending to be anything other than who you truly are. Your chest rises and falls in a natural rhythm that honors both your human vulnerabilities and your divine potential for wisdom. Feel the warm light flowing down through your torso with the patience of genuine self-discovery, relaxing your back, your abdomen, releasing any stress from the internal conflicts that arise when your external life doesn't align with your inner truth. You are safe here in this moment of honest self-examination, protected by the understanding that authentic self-knowledge, however challenging, provides the only solid foundation for meaningful life and genuine peace. The light continues its illuminating journey down through your hips and thighs, warming every muscle, encouraging complete relaxation, like someone who has stopped running from self-understanding and found peace in accepting both personal strengths and areas requiring growth. Your legs grow heavy, sinking into the bed as if they're resting after a long journey toward the self-acceptance that makes authentic wisdom possible. Down through your calves and feet, the illuminating light completes its truth-seeking journey, leaving you completely relaxed, completely at peace, completely ready to receive the divine wisdom about truth-seeking, self-knowledge, and the sacred responsibility that comes with seeing clearly. Your mind grows quiet and divinely receptive, like a genuine seeker approaching the oracle at Delphi with sincere desire for truth rather than merely favorable predictions. Like those who carved "Know Thyself" above the temple entrance, understanding that self-knowledge must precede all other wisdom, you are ready for whatever divine insights this exploration of truth-seeking and prophetic understanding will bring to your consciousness. You are grounded in this moment of sacred receptivity, yet open to the divine communications that await in the realm of authentic self-discovery and truth-seeking courage. You are safe. You are calm. You are ready to learn from Apollo's illumination how truth becomes a sacred burden and a divine gift, how self-knowledge forms the foundation for all genuine wisdom, and how the courage to see clearly transforms ordinary consciousness into divine awareness. Your breathing deepens with the rhythm of sacred inquiry, honest enough to face difficult truths, wise enough to understand that authentic understanding always serves higher purposes than comfortable illusion. Like a truth seeker, preparing to receive divine guidance that will challenge assumptions while illuminating authentic path forward. You are ready for the wisdom of divine truth and sacred self-knowledge. Breathe deeply and let the story of Apollo's oracle, divine communication, and the eternal human quest for truth and self-understanding begin to unfold with relevance for your own journey toward authentic wisdom and purposeful living. In the golden halls of Olympus, Zeus assigns to his son Apollo responsibilities that will bridge the divine and human realms in ways no other god has been asked to accomplish. Apollo becomes not merely a god of power, but the divine embodiment of humanity's highest aspiration, the pursuit of truth, the cultivation of self-knowledge, and the sacred art of communication between mortal consciousness and divine wisdom. The assignment encompasses multiple interconnected domains that reveal the holistic nature of authentic wisdom. Apollo will govern truth and prophecy, ensuring that those who genuinely seek understanding receive guidance that serves their highest development rather than merely their immediate desires. He will oversee music and poetry, understanding that divine truth often communicates through beauty and artistic inspiration rather than through direct intellectual instruction. Most significantly, Apollo receives responsibility for healing, not just physical ailments, but the deeper healing that comes when humans align their lives with truth rather than illusion, when they embrace authentic self-knowledge rather than comfortable self-deception, when they choose the sometimes difficult path of genuine wisdom over the easier path of pleasant ignorance. The god's divine radiance represents the illumination that comes from this integrated approach to wisdom. Truth-seeking that encompasses both intellectual honesty and emotional courage. Self-knowledge that includes both personal insight and cosmic understanding. And healing that addresses both individual suffering and collective blindness to deeper realities. Zeus understands that humanity needs a divine advocate for the challenging work of conscious evolution. Someone who will encourage the pursuit of truth, even when truth creates discomfort. Who will support authentic self-examination, even when such examination reveals areas requiring growth. And who will provide guidance that serves long-term wisdom rather than short-term convenience. Apollo accepts this sacred responsibility with full understanding of its complexity. He will serve as the divine bridge between human questioning and cosmic understanding, between individual seeking and universal truth, between the mortal desire for certainty and the divine recognition that authentic wisdom often requires embracing mystery while continuing to seek clarity. The God of Light prepares to establish his most important earthly sanctuary, where humans can approach divine wisdom through the challenging but transformative practice of genuine self-inquiry and authentic truth-seeking. On the slopes of Mount Parnassus, where eagles soar closest to the realm of the gods, and the earth itself seems to breathe with divine presence, Apollo establishes the oracle at Delphi, humanity's most sacred destination for seekers of truth, wisdom, and authentic self-understanding. This becomes more than a temple. It becomes a spiritual institution that will guide human consciousness toward deeper awareness for over 1,000 years. The location itself reveals Apollo's understanding of how divine truth communicates with human awareness. Delphi sits at what the Greeks recognize as the omphalos, the navel of the world, where Earth's energies concentrate in ways that make consciousness more receptive to insights beyond ordinary perception. The natural vapors rising from underground fissures create an altered state that opens human awareness to communications from divine wisdom. Above the temple entrance, Apollo causes to be carved the most important instruction ever given to human consciousness: know thyself. This phrase represents not casual self-reflection, but the profound spiritual practice of understanding your authentic nature beneath personality, social role, and cultural conditioning. Self-knowledge becomes the prerequisite for receiving any other form of genuine wisdom. The oracle's establishment creates a model for how divine truth interfaces with human seeking. Those who approach Delphi must first purify themselves, not through ritual alone, but through honest examination of their motivations for seeking guidance. Are they pursuing truth that will serve their highest development, or merely seeking predictions that will support their existing desires and fears? Apollo selects the Pythia, a woman who becomes the human vessel through whom divine wisdom speaks to mortal consciousness. This choice demonstrates that truth-seeking requires receptivity rather than intellectual dominance, openness rather than defensive certainty, and the courage to allow divine perspective to challenge human assumptions. The oracle at Delphi becomes the bridge between human questioning and divine understanding, between individual confusion and cosmic clarity, between mortal seeking and immortal wisdom. Pilgrims journey from across the Mediterranean world, bringing questions about war and peace, love and loss, purpose and meaning, receiving guidance that consistently directs them toward truth, virtue, and authentic self-knowledge rather than merely favorable outcomes. Through Delphi, Apollo establishes the principle that divine truth serves human wisdom rather than human wishes, that authentic guidance challenges growth rather than confirming comfort, and that the highest form of prophecy reveals not predetermined fate, but the consequences of conscious choice and authentic living. The Pythia enters her sacred trance as Apollo's divine consciousness merges with human awareness, creating a communication bridge between mortal seeking and immortal understanding. This mystical process demonstrates how divine truth reaches human consciousness, not through direct intellectual transmission, but through the mysterious interface of spirit speaking through prepared and receptive human vessel. The sacred vapors rising from the earth's depths alter the Pythia's consciousness in ways that modern science still cannot fully explain, creating receptivity to insights that transcend ordinary mental processes. In this altered state, she becomes temporarily transparent to divine wisdom, allowing Apollo's perspective to speak through her voice while maintaining enough human understanding to translate cosmic truth into language that mortal consciousness can receive. The oracle's prophecies emerge not as predetermined fate, but as divine insight into the consequences of human choices and the deeper patterns that govern moral and spiritual development. Apollo speaks through the Pythia to reveal how current actions create future circumstances, how character development influences external outcomes, and how alignment with truth and virtue serves both individual fulfillment and cosmic harmony. Most significantly, the divine communications consistently direct seekers towards self-knowledge and authentic living, rather than merely providing the information they consciously desire. When kings ask about military victories, the oracle responds with guidance about justice and wisdom. When individuals seek predictions about personal fortune, they receive insights about character development and spiritual growth. The Pythia's role reveals the profound truth that divine wisdom requires human cooperation, not passive reception, but active participation in the truth-seeking process. The priestess must maintain spiritual purity, emotional balance, and mental clarity to serve as an accurate vessel for divine communication. Her preparation includes meditation, purification rituals, and the cultivation of selfless service to truth rather than personal agenda. Through the Pythia, Apollo demonstrates that divine truth speaks to human consciousness when receptivity, humility, and genuine seeking create the proper conditions for spiritual communication. The oracle becomes proof that higher wisdom remains accessible to human awareness when ego-driven desires give way to authentic truth-seeking, and when personal will aligns with divine guidance toward wisdom, virtue, and authentic self-understanding. The sacred dialogue between divine wisdom and human consciousness continues through centuries, establishing principles for spiritual communication that remain relevant for anyone seeking authentic guidance from sources beyond ordinary mental processes. Above the entrance to Apollo's temple at Delphi stands the most revolutionary instruction ever given to human consciousness. Gnathi Seauton, know thyself. These two words contain the entire foundation for authentic wisdom, spiritual development, and meaningful living. They represent not casual self-awareness, but the profound spiritual practice of understanding your true nature beneath all the layers of conditioning, personality, and social identity. Apollo's instruction recognizes that all other forms of knowledge remain superficial and potentially misleading without this fundamental self-understanding. You cannot accurately assess external situations if you don't understand your own biases, fears, and motivational patterns. You cannot make wise decisions about relationships, career, or life direction without clear awareness of your authentic values, strengths, and areas requiring development. The self that Apollo calls you to know encompasses multiple dimensions of human nature. There is the surface self of personality and social role, the psychological self of emotions and mental patterns, the moral self of values and character, and the spiritual self that connects your individual consciousness with cosmic consciousness. True self-knowledge requires honest examination of all these levels. Most people spend their entire lives knowing about themselves rather than actually knowing themselves. They can describe their preferences, explain their history, and analyze their behavior patterns, but they remain strangers to their own deepest nature, motivations, and spiritual identity. Apollo's instruction points toward direct, experiential understanding that goes beyond intellectual analysis to authentic self-recognition. Self-knowledge includes both accepting what you discover about yourself and taking responsibility for your continued development. It means seeing your strengths without pride and acknowledging your weaknesses without shame, understanding your patterns without being trapped by them, and recognizing your potential without demanding that others acknowledge it. The Oracle's guidance consistently returns seekers to this fundamental practice because external wisdom cannot be properly received or applied without this internal foundation. Kings who don't understand their own motivations make poor decisions regardless of divine guidance. Individuals who don't know their authentic nature pursue goals that cannot provide genuine satisfaction even when achieved. Apollo's Know Thyself becomes the foundation not just for receiving divine guidance, but for living authentically in any circumstances. Self-knowledge provides the stable platform from which you can engage the world with clarity, make decisions aligned with your true nature, and contribute to others from authentic strength rather than compensatory performance. The journey inward becomes the prerequisite for all meaningful journeys outward into relationship, work, and service. Among Apollo's most complex gifts is the story of Cassandra, the Trojan princess who receives the divine ability to see future events with perfect accuracy. but carries the curse that no one will believe her prophecies. Her tale reveals the profound burden that comes with seeing truth clearly in a world that often prefers comfortable illusion to challenging reality. Apollo grants Cassandra prophetic sight as a gift of love. Believing that the ability to foresee consequences and warn others about impending disasters represents one of the highest forms of divine blessing. The god understands that accurate perception of reality, including uncomfortable truths about future possibilities, serves both individual wisdom and collective welfare when applied with compassion and courage. But when Cassandra rejects Apollo's romantic advances, the god adds a devastating modification to her gift. She will continue to see future events with perfect clarity, but no one will believe her warnings. This creates a burden that demonstrates how truth-telling often becomes a form of isolation, how accurate perception can separate wise individuals from communities that prefer not to see clearly. Cassandra's prophecies prove accurate in every detail, but her society's rejection of uncomfortable truths means her warnings go unheeded. She foresees the fall of Troy, the consequences of bringing the wooden horse into the city, the disasters that will follow from various political and military decisions. But her insights are dismissed as the ravings of someone whose perspective threatens collective denial. The princess experiences the peculiar suffering of those who see clearly in societies that reward pleasant illusions over challenging truths. She knows what others refuse to acknowledge, understands consequences that others prefer to ignore, and bears the lonely burden of accurate perception in a community that has chosen collective blindness over individual and social wisdom. Apollo's gift curse reveals the complex relationship between divine truth and human receptivity. Truth becomes a burden when those who receive it cannot find others willing to engage seriously with difficult realities. Accurate perception creates isolation when communities prefer familiar delusions to unfamiliar accuracy. Yet Cassandra's story also demonstrates the divine perspective that truth-telling remains valuable, even when immediate acceptance is impossible. Seeds of accurate understanding planted by unpopular truth-tellers often germinate long after initial rejection, eventually contributing to wisdom that serves future generations, even when it couldn't protect the present one. The burden of seeing clearly becomes a form of service to truth itself. Regardless of whether immediate audiences possess the courage to receive what accurate perception reveals about reality and its consequences. Apollo's mastery of divine music reveals another dimension of truth-seeking, the understanding that harmony and beauty provide access to cosmic principles that purely intellectual analysis cannot reach. When the god plays his golden lyre, the music that emerges demonstrates how truth manifests not only through logical reasoning and prophetic insight, but through the aesthetic principles that govern universal order itself. The divine melodies that flow from Apollo's instrument reflect the mathematical relationships that structure reality at every level, from the orbital patterns of celestial bodies to the geometric forms found in nature, from the rhythmic cycles that govern biological processes to the harmonic ratios that create pleasing sound combinations. Music becomes a language through which cosmic truth communicates directly with human consciousness. This harmonic approach to truth-seeking suggests that authentic understanding requires both analytical thinking and aesthetic sensitivity, both logical reasoning and artistic appreciation. The God who governs both prophecy and poetry understands that divine truth often reaches human awareness through beauty, inspiration, and creative expression, rather than through direct intellectual transmission alone. Apollo's music creates harmony not only in sound, but in the consciousness of those who listen with genuine receptivity. The divine melodies align human awareness with cosmic order, helping individual consciousness resonate with universal principles of justice, beauty, and wisdom. This alignment becomes a form of healing that addresses spiritual and emotional discord at their source. The God's artistic mastery demonstrates that truth and beauty are not separate domains, but different expressions of the same divine reality. What is genuinely true will also possess an inherent beauty when perceived clearly, and what is authentically beautiful will also contain truth about the nature of reality and human potential for conscious harmony with cosmic order. Through music, Apollo teaches that the pursuit of truth includes cultivating aesthetic sensitivity and creative expression as valid paths toward authentic understanding. The divine musician, who also serves as the God of truth, shows that artistic inspiration and logical reasoning both serve the higher purpose of aligning human consciousness with divine wisdom. When Apollo plays his lyre, the music that results creates a bridge between earthly consciousness and cosmic awareness, demonstrating that truth-seeking includes not only the courage to see clearly and the discipline to think accurately, but also the openness to receive divine guidance through beauty, harmony, and artistic inspiration that speaks directly to the soul's capacity for wisdom and authentic understanding. Apollo's role as divine healer reveals the profound connection between truth-seeking and wellness, between authentic self-knowledge and the resolution of suffering that goes beyond merely physical symptoms to address the spiritual and psychological roots of human pain. The God's healing light demonstrates that authentic wellness requires alignment with truth at every level of human existence. The divine physician understands that most human suffering stems from disconnection from authentic self-knowledge, from honest recognition of reality, from alignment with natural law and cosmic harmony. Physical illness often reflects deeper disease that results from living in opposition to truth, from maintaining patterns of thought and behavior that contradict what wisdom recognizes as healthy and sustainable. Apollo's healing approach addresses both symptoms and causes, both immediate relief and long-term transformation. The divine light that emanates from his presence doesn't merely suppress painful experiences, but illuminates the deeper patterns that create pain, revealing how healing requires not just external intervention, but internal transformation toward greater alignment with truth and wisdom. The God's healing practice demonstrates that wellness includes emotional health, mental clarity, and spiritual alignment, as well as physical comfort. True healing restores the patient's capacity for authentic self-knowledge, clear thinking, and purposeful living, rather than merely eliminating uncomfortable symptoms while leaving underlying disease patterns intact. This holistic approach to healing recognizes that human beings possess an inherent capacity for wellness that becomes available when consciousness aligns with truth rather than fighting against reality. Apollo's light activates this natural healing potential by dissolving the ignorance, denial, and self-deception that block access to the wisdom and inner resources that support authentic well-being. The divine healer works through enlightenment rather than force, through understanding rather than suppression, through harmony rather than control. His healing interventions support the patient's own movement toward truth, self-knowledge, and authentic living, rather than creating dependency on external solutions that don't address the spiritual and psychological dimensions of wellness. Apollo's healing light represents the therapeutic power of consciousness aligned with truth, the understanding that authentic healing transforms the whole person toward greater wisdom, stronger character, and deeper alignment with the cosmic harmony that supports all genuine wellness. The God of light conquers darkness not through violence, but through the patient application of illumination that reveals health as the natural state of consciousness, living in harmony with truth, wisdom, and authentic self-understanding. Beyond the famous Know Thyself, Apollo establishes at Delphi a collection of practical wisdom teachings known as the Delphic Maxims, 147 concise instructions that provide specific guidance for ethical living, character development, and the cultivation of wisdom in daily life. These maxims translate divine insight into practical principles that any sincere seeker can apply immediately to create more authentic and purposeful existence. Nothing in excess stands as perhaps the second most important maxim, teaching the principle of moderation that prevents both indulgence and deprivation from distorting judgment and undermining well-being. Apollo recognizes that wisdom requires balance, enough engagement with pleasure, work, and ambition to live fully, but not so much that these become obsessions that compromise character or authentic happiness. Surety brings ruin, warns against the dangers of overconfidence, and the assumption that current circumstances will continue indefinitely without change. This maxim encourages humility about future possibilities and the cultivation of adaptability that allows wisdom to guide response to changing conditions, rather than rigid attachment to particular outcomes or expectations. Honor the gods and respect your parents. Establish the foundational relationships that provide structure for ethical living, recognition of higher wisdom and authority, gratitude for the sources of your existence and development, and the understanding that authentic individualism grows from, rather than rejects, the wisdom traditions and relationships that have shaped your capacity for consciousness and choice. Other maxims address practical concerns with divine perspective. Control anger, pursue what is possible, fear authority, hate hubris, defend the laws, reverence the divine, and exercise prudence. Each instruction provides specific guidance for navigating common human challenges with wisdom rather than merely reactive emotion or cultural conditioning. The maxims collectively reveal Apollo's understanding that divine wisdom must translate into practical living to serve authentic human development. Abstract philosophical understanding that doesn't influence daily choices and character development remains incomplete. True wisdom transforms how you treat others, how you make decisions, how you respond to challenges, and how you align your life with principles that serve both individual flourishing and collective welfare. Through these practical instructions, Apollo bridges the gap between divine insight and human application, between cosmic truth and ethical living, between mystical experience and moral character. The God of Truth provides not only profound philosophical principles, but specific guidance for translating those principles into the practical choices that create authentic wisdom and purposeful living in real-world circumstances and relationships. Apollo's final and most profound teaching concerns the sacred responsibility that comes with receiving divine truth and developing authentic self-knowledge. The God reveals that wisdom is never granted merely for personal benefit, but always carries the obligation to serve truth in the world through character, example, and when appropriate, direct teaching and guidance for others who seek authentic understanding. Those who receive divine insight about themselves and reality assume the burden of living according to that understanding, rather than reverting to convenient ignorance or comfortable self-deception. Truth-bearing becomes a form of sacred service that requires ongoing commitment to alignment with wisdom, regardless of external pressures to conform to popular illusions or profitable deceptions. The responsibility includes both positive obligation, actively supporting truth and wisdom in your relationships and communities, and negative obligation, refusing to participate in collective denial, harmful deceptions, or systems that depend on ignorance for their continuation. Truth-bearers become carriers of light who cannot ethically hide that light under comfortable conformity or fearful silence. Apollo teaches that this responsibility extends beyond dramatic truth-telling moments to include the daily practice of authentic living. Every choice to act from genuine self-knowledge rather than false persona, every decision to speak honestly rather than manipulatively, every response to challenge that reflects wisdom rather than mere reaction, contributes to the presence of truth in the world. The divine instruction recognizes that truth-bearing often involves loneliness, misunderstanding, and resistance from those who prefer not to see clearly. Yet the God emphasizes that the burden of seeing clearly becomes meaningful through service to truth itself, regardless of whether immediate audiences possess the courage to receive what accurate perception reveals about reality and its implications. This sacred responsibility transforms the pursuit of truth from self-serving activity into form of devotion to accuracy, wisdom, and the collective human potential for conscious evolution. Truth-bearers serve as bridges between divine wisdom and human consciousness, carrying forward the eternal project of awakening that Apollo represents through his guidance at Delphi. The God's ultimate teaching suggests that those who genuinely seek truth will inevitably be found by truth, and those who are found by truth will discover themselves called to serve truth through lives that embody wisdom, character, and the courage to support authentic understanding in a world that often prefers pleasant illusion to challenging reality. Truth becomes both gift and responsibility, both blessing and burden, both personal transformation and social obligation that connects individual seeking with divine service. For over 1,000 years, pilgrims journey to Delphi seeking Apollo's guidance, each generation bringing the same fundamental questions about identity, purpose, and the meaning of conscious existence. The eternal human quest for self-knowledge and authentic understanding proves that the challenges Apollo addresses through his oracle remain constant across cultures, centuries, and changing external circumstances. The questions that seekers bring to the oracle reveal the timeless concerns of human consciousness. Who am I beneath my social roles and cultural conditioning? What is my authentic purpose in this lifetime? How can I live with integrity when external pressures encourage compromise? How can I find meaning when circumstances seem random or hostile? How can I develop wisdom when information is abundant, but understanding seems scarce? Apollo's responses consistently direct seekers back to the foundational practice of self-knowledge as the prerequisite for addressing any external challenge effectively. The God understands that until individuals understand their own motivational patterns, unconscious biases, and authentic values, their engagement with external circumstances will remain reactive rather than conscious, driven by conditioning rather than wisdom. The oracle's enduring relevance demonstrates that technological and social changes cannot eliminate the fundamental challenges of human consciousness. Whether seekers arrive from ancient Athens or contemporary society, whether they face warfare or workplace stress, whether they struggle with traditional or modern relationship challenges, the underlying spiritual and psychological dynamics remain remarkably consistent. Apollo's teachings through the oracle establish principles for truth-seeking that transcend any particular era. Honest self-examination must precede attempts to change external circumstances. Wisdom requires both intellectual understanding and character development. Authentic purpose emerges from alignment with truth rather than from social expectations or cultural pressures. The God's eternal message suggests that human consciousness possesses unlimited potential for wisdom, compassion, and purposeful contribution when guided by authentic self-knowledge and commitment to truth. Yet this potential can only be actualized through the patient, ongoing practice of honest self-examination and alignment with the deeper principles that Apollo represents. The pilgrimage to Delphi becomes a metaphor for the eternal human spiritual journey towards self-understanding, authentic living, and conscious participation in the cosmic order that connects individual development with universal wisdom. The quest for truth never ends because consciousness itself can continue expanding its capacity for understanding, service, and alignment with the divine harmony that Apollo embodies through his multiple roles as truth-bringer, healer, and guide for conscious evolution. The eternal question, "Who am I?" continues calling to every generation, and Apollo's light continues illuminating the path toward authentic answers. As Apollo's eternal flame continues burning at Delphi through the centuries, illuminating the path toward truth and self-knowledge for all who genuinely seek authentic understanding, you too can rest in the divine light that makes clear vision possible in any circumstances, any era, any challenge that consciousness may face. Tonight, carry with you the God's most profound gifts, the courage to seek truth, even when it challenges comfortable assumptions, the commitment to authentic self-knowledge that goes beyond surface personality to discover your deepest nature and purpose, and the understanding that divine wisdom remains available to any consciousness willing to approach the sacred work of honest self-examination. Let Apollo's illumination guide your dreams toward greater clarity about your own authentic nature, motivations, and path forward. Let his divine music create harmony between your conscious intentions and unconscious patterns. Let his healing light restore alignment between your external life and internal truth. Sleep now with the sacred understanding that know thyself remains humanity's highest calling and most practical instruction. Rest in the confidence that divine truth seeks human consciousness as earnestly as human consciousness seeks divine truth, and that the meeting between seeker and wisdom always serves purposes greater than individual understanding alone. Rest well, truth seeker. Rest deep, divine student. Rest in the eternal peace of authentic self-knowledge and the sacred responsibility that comes with seeing clearly in a world that often chooses comfortable illusion over challenging wisdom. The light of Apollo continues shining, and in that light, your own authentic nature becomes beautifully, eternally clear.
you.